They're not craters. I'm not calling these craters at all. If they're inverted or concave, well, first of all, if something bashed into the moon, the hole it put there would not be convex.
Physics and logic on a level supreme. It's a curved reality, splitting Flerf dreams.
Hey folks, welcome back. Curious UK here. So last night I was just kind of doing my thing, getting ready to go to bed, and a friend of mine messaged me and let me know that Mikey Smith was on live right away. So I thought, oh, I'll just quickly check it out, let's see what he's up to, just, morbid curiosity, and have a little laugh while I was just finished doing what I was doing. And Mikey was sitting there and he was discussing the moon, and the fact is, I think the whole premise of his live was to say that the craters on the moon are not craters, but he's going to call them that anyways, and the shadows you see in the craters, like either at the edge of the full moon or at the terminator line, where you see the part of the shadows are not shadows. He doesn't know what they are. And he tried to prove it with a piece of paper on a table and a light. Silly, but yeah. So what I decided to do, instead of look at the whole live, because a lot of times it was just him yapping as he often does when he's sitting in his computer or he's driving or anything else, is I thought I'd just take snippets from different things and we'll address the different main points that he was on here. So let's start with the first one, with this. While you're at it, click that like button, subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed yet, comment down below and let me know what you think. Let's get into it.
So here we go. On my table, I made a curved piece of paper here, and the shadow is bowing inwards as if it should be on the moon. Do you see what's going on here? If this was a complete circle, which the supposed craters are, complete circles, the shadow should be bending this way, not a hump. Why are the supposed shadows, going like this, as if there's a hump there? Because the surface of the moon, if you want to call it the surface, is bowing outwards. It's curving outwards, so that makes more sense than bowing in.
So right away, you can tell that Mikey doesn't have a single clue what he's talking about. For one, the craters in the moon are from an impact site, and what they've done is something's hit, and it's the regolith, and usually pushes out and it has bits to go up a little bit, so it causes peaks. So to get into one of those craters, you actually have to walk up a hill and then walk down, and the crater go deeper down in. So it actually goes down in, like, let's think like a bowl or something like that. And normally you see a little something in the middle. That's kind of the material of something's hit, and as it's hit down, you usually get like a splash up, like a rebound, like as they say, like was it any action has equal opposite reaction, and so as it's hitting, you get stuff up. Now, not all the stuff you see on the moon is impact craters. Some of it is from when the moon actually was molten kind of liquid at one point. It was almost had like hot lava, and that's you get some of the darker, big, huge patches and stuff. That's literally like solidified kind of like liquid kind of lava when the moon was first formed in our solar system after a asteroid impacted the Earth when the Earth was only a protoplanet, and it ejected off and it became its own thing. And because of the gravity of it being a massive object, it kind of formulated into what we have now, a sphere, being that's the most efficient shape that liquid takes in weightlessness or very low gravity in space. So that's where you get some of those be lava. There's lava tubes underneath and stuff like that. They've actually done different scans and stuff as well, that they have analyzed the regolith and rocks and stuff from the moon after the Apollo missions. So Mikey right away doesn't understand how craters work and what he's looking at on the moon.
So let's grab the other. I gotta find out where I put those other ones. So there we go. We got the shadow on the right, supposed shadow on the right, and my demonstration on the left. Something is wrong with this picture.
What's wrong is Mikey has not a clue what the fuck he's doing, and he's literally comparing apples with bananas. And what his demonstration, a piece of paper taped to the table, and what he's looking at on the moon aren't even equivalents. If you want to do something better, you could do something like what I do at the end of this little segment here, and I'll show you how you could probably model this, and I can show you exactly how it actually my representation works perfectly on the moon and how it works.
Just like Sesame Street says, something's not the same here. Why is the so-called shadow bowing outwards here? That is not a shadow. If you think that's a shadow, I wish you luck.
Mikey's obviously, I don't know, maybe he needs some glasses, he's blind, and maybe he's just fucking stupid. Because you can obviously see that shadow in that crater in his picture of the moon is not hitting the very bottom of the crater, but it's actually hitting where it's starting to ramp up the other side. But let's move on and see if we can go through this a little bit further.
They're not craters. I'm not calling these craters at all. If they're inverted or concave, well, first of all, if something bashed into the moon, the hole it put there would not be convex. There should be a deep hole, and I do not see a deep hole here. And these are not shadows. This here is not a deep hole. Nothing bashed into the ground here, into the surface of the moon. There is no hole here. There's just appears to be a circle of something there.
And Mikey is absolutely right. That is not a crater. That is not a hole. That's from the formation of the moon when the moon had a liquid surface when it was first forming, and that's actually due to lava flows from the moon, as the moon had different lava flows over its surface before it eventually cooled and hardened and became this rocky, barren surface that it is now.
I'm not even calling it ground or sand or dirt or anything. I don't even know what the moon is. I have to call them craters in relation to what the zombies or the sheep call them. I can't just call them potholes because nobody's going to understand what I mean when I say potholes.
Interesting. She doesn't know what the moon is, doesn't know what those are, but he knows they're not craters. That's quite interesting indeed. And also, he says he can't call them potholes because people won't know. Funny enough, though, potholes are created in like your road surface, and that is from heavy vehicles and bits and stuff impacting into it, and eventually what it does is it causes a fracture, which then gets chewed out by the different tires. And normally it happens a lot of times on surfaces where you have a lot of heavy goods vehicles that go on it, and the surface breaks down quickly. So actually, potholes are impact craters. So yeah, you can call them potholes, just really fucking big ones, because in a way they're both created by a massive impact. So yeah, Mikey, potholes, craters, they're kind of the same thing. There's a pothole happens usually on a road surface, and a crater is usually from either some sort of explosion or a massive impact, like say a celestial object like a meteorite impacting into the surface of a celestial of a planet or a moon or something like that.
Okay, people are not thinking. Again, this is not a shadow. That's the whole concept of this live stream, or this point of the live stream. This is not a shadow. This is a shadow of a curved piece of paper that is standing upright, representing an edge or a mountain ridge that is in a circle pattern, supposedly. Elevated ground, sand. I need to go do this experiment at the beach. Maybe I'll do that pretty soon, because that's what I do. I do experiments. I get off my ass and I go do something. Anyways, moving on.
All right, let me see if I can go and demonstrate this. And funny enough, I don't need to go to the beach or anything, but I do get up and go do things. I do this all the time. This is why Mikey runs for my channel and runs to come on my lives, because he knows that I actually do things, and I'll disprove everything he says. So let's get up my demonstration. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Right, since Mikey thinks that he's proved it with his piece of paper and stuff like that, let's do this a little bit more closer to scale. It's not, well, actually not scale, but it's closer to what Mikey had, right? So there's a distant light source, much bigger one, like this. Let's pretend this is a crater. Do you notice something? Notice how it's kind of the same, even when it has a little thing in the middle. Let's say like, it's supposed to be smaller, but let's just move it up here. Okay. More like how maybe the the craters of the moon are. Do you notice something when it's hitting a certain angle? Look at that. See that? Now let's look at Mikey's again and see what he shows. Which, look at that, even Mikey's blurry shot, I showed how it works perfectly fine. In fact, I'm going to show you my observations because, well, my pictures are much better than Mikey's. And would you look at that? This is a picture I took with my telescope and my planetary camera stacked up in photography software, so you get a nice clear shot. And look at that, shadows of the moon, just like I said, perfectly explained. So there you go, Mikey Smith. I was actually able to replicate it and demonstrate it much better and more efficiently and accurately than you were. So yeah, your whole "that's not shadows of the moon" that's debunked. Now, a friend of mine was actually in there and wanted to bet you $100 that he could prove that those were shadows of the moon. And in fact, I said, I'll pay you $500. And you ran away from those bets because you know that you can't support your stance and you don't have any evidence, and you know that like that I could disprove you, and I just did. Let's move on to the next point.
This would be, I'm going to get this better cleared up because I am going to get a surprise here hopefully in a few weeks, and we will get rid of this color distortion here. But this is one of the moons of Jupiter. I'm going to get this cleared up eventually soon. But this is one of the supposed moons, and there's another one there.
Oh wow, is that the best you can do with his optics? No wonder everybody's taking the piss out of him. I've took pictures of Saturn and its moons as well. The only thing is I use a telescope and a astro camera. Let's look at the difference. And that's where you see differences between good optics and bad optics. That was Mikey's using poor optics. This is me using a Celestron 130mm telescope. So this is Jupiter with his moons. Now here's Jupiter with turning the exposure down. And this is where I put the two together, and this is how you can get that. So you can see in Mikey's there's a lot of chromatic aberration, all those different colors. That's not how it should look. This is what you should be getting. So this is two pictures done like only minutes apart. So that's why you can see the moons in this, and Jupiter is I turned the exposure down, took Jupiter, exposure up, and you get the moons, and you put the two together, and this is where you get the shots. So this is another reason why Mikey Smith keeps running away from coming onto my live, and he's blocked me or shadow banned me, or his mods have from even being able to comment on his lives and stuff like that. And that's because the fact, even Mikey admitted in an email that he looked at my channel and looked at a few videos I tagged him in, which I was actually challenging him to come on, show me his observations like what he's doing here, and I'll show him my observations in a very respectful and manner, and we will see if we can compare. Now, I did say I wanted to see his observations of Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, the moon, some of the stars, and maybe Uranus or Venus, if you can manage that, and we'll go from there. And I said, look, let me know what he has. I'll try to get the same, and we'll compare and see if they kind of both align or not. And then we'll look and see what other people have got. And Mikey ran away and has been running and hiding from me since. This is why, because as you can see there was a massive disparity between his, which he had a lot of chromatic aberration in his video. He's using poor optics with not very high-end binoculars, and he's using just his mobile phone camera, which is not designed for astrophotography. Difference is I'm using a telescope, be it not a very high-end one, still a very beginner, and I'm using actually just a beginner kind of planetary camera. But even just that, with just my beginner stuff, it's far superior, and you can see the difference where I'm not getting near the aberrations. You can see what he claimed maybe is the moons. You had that big like jumpy bit. Well, that's because doesn't have a very good mount, and that's obviously his optics is moving up and down. He's probably doing that. I'm balancing with the weight of his cell phone on the back of his binoculars. and on probably a not very good high-end tripod or whatever he's using for that. And it's just not designed for what he's using it. But he thinks that he's got the be-all end-all, and you can see very clearly that he doesn't. And he's going to be disproven quickly and easily with even beginner tech that's actually designed for doing these kind of observations. Now the next one, Mikey thinks he does some sort of experiment, or he shows some sort of demonstration which he's trying to prove that you can't have shadows on a rock, and rocks can't reflect light, which is actually quite hilarious, because obviously Mikey doesn't even know how vision works, and the fact is that if you can see it, it's reflecting light into your eyes.
Well, let's do the experiment here, shall we? Let's tilt the camera down if it works. All right, here we go. Turning the flashlight on, you can see how bright it is. Now we will illuminate the sky.
All right, quickly, there are two real things that Mikey's got wrong. One, scale and distance is important when you're talking about like celestial objects. And two, he's using a very small light source. It might be bright, but it's only a cell phone flashlight light, so it's only very, very tiny, and he's holding it very, very close to the moon. That's not how the sun and the moon are. That is not what's even claimed on the globe heliocentric model, and definitely when you say it's even claimed on a flat Earth model. I don't think the sun and moon are that close together. If they were, you'd see them side by side in the sky, wouldn't we? So Mikey is just trying to conflate this thing to try to push his false narratives.
Or the room. No, doesn't seem to be working. Let's see if we can get it to reflect back at me onto my face.
Once again, Mike is trying to strawman the globe or the heliocentric claims. We don't claim that the moon is going to illuminate the whole surface of the Earth. That's not what we claim. We have the sun, like we have here, which is a light source, and the moon reflects it, but obviously at a much, much smaller scale, not enough to be illuminating the whole entire Earth. We're not going to have the moon illuminating the whole sky. And like what we have for the sun, we're not going to have something like that with the moon. This is very obvious. So Mikey trying to say he can illuminate his face with the rock. If he was in a very dark room, like how we like nighttime, like perfect, then with the reflection off that rock from a distant light source, be able to reflect a little bit of light, and you might actually be able to, if you open up, if you opened up the exposure on a camera, would you be able to see his face? Most likely, probably, yeah, because there would be some reflection, but it would not be enough to illuminate the whole area, and that's not what we see when we look at the moon, because when the moon's out and the sun's set, guess what, Mikey? It's dark. It's dark outside. And only after your eyes are adjusted, where your pupil is opened up enough to let a lot more light in, can you sometimes on a very clear and full moon night, can you start to make out details, but definitely not like what you can with the sun out. And this is where Mikey has no idea how optics work, or how the heliocentric model and the claims and the proof and evidence that we have. So sorry, Mikey, your demonstration is bullshit, and we all know it.
Is it working? You can light the rock up, yes, but it ain't going to illuminate the room. And again, you can see the light coming from here to touch here.
Well, yeah, because you're literally holding them close together. You can see my head and my hand at the same time. You can see the light reflecting off my hand. Why does my hand look so shiny? But my hand is reflecting. Holy crap. Oh, I wonder why. Well, because you're holding them in the freaking camera, you absolutely freaking stupid bell end.
Is it good? Hold on here. Let's put the rock in behind my head here. It's not working, guys. Sorry. Oh, wait, here. Let's try this one. This one's curved. Kind of looks like the moon a little bit, doesn't it? Is this blinding you guys?
Actually, if we look at that there, that is definitely illuminating, and that rock is reflecting light back into the camera, which is why it's making it very difficult to make out the details of that rock, because the light is reflecting to the camera, and the camera is receiving enough light that it can't be able to resolve the details on it, even with the light reflecting on it. So actually, Mikey, you've just debunked yourself. Good job. I love it when you do that. You do it a lot.
Yeah, let's put it closer. No reflection going on there. Nope. Maybe it'll. Does it light up my chin? No, that's just probably from this. Sorry, guys. I tried. And then again, you see how the entire surface of the moon is lit, of the rock is lit up. There's no dark spots. There's no dark spots. There's no blotchy areas, no grayed out areas. It's all lit up because it's penetrating and it's just covering the entire surface of the rock.
Yes, exactly like we see when we see a full moon. The only place you actually see shadows and stuff like that is around the edge, because the moon is a sphere. That's one way of actually proving it's a sphere, is actually look at the terminator line of, say, a quarter moon, a half moon, or even a three-quarter moon. And then to even we have a full moon, you can look around the edges, and you can see where there's craters going over, you can see dark parts. But on the surface, you won't really see much for shadows. But what you do see is that there's different... we have different kinds of rock and stuff on there. So some parts are lighter and are regolith, which reflects a lot more sun, and you have other parts that are darker and they don't reflect light quite as well, and that's where you have the different patterns. Like I said, some parts are like the moon surface was like a molten lava surface, and some of them you'll see where they are like they were one time like almost lakes or big oceans of lava, until eventually they cooled down to the point where it cooled to just being rock, but it's rock of a different reflective grade and gradient compared to other parts that may that would be different, like the and so reflects a different rate of light. Mike, there are different types of rock that all have different opacities, capacities, and different reflective principles about them. This isn't very difficult to show and to prove.
Where are the shadows? No shadows. Sorry. You gotta show me shadows on a rock, baby.
Yeah, no problem, Mikey. You did a pretty good job yourself. Look, the shadows on that rock. Oh, look at this one. Look at the shadows. See the part that's lit up and the part that's in shadow? Oh, look at this one here. Look at all the different shadows on there. Holy wow. And look at this one here. It's a pretty good job debunking yourself. As for the moon lighting up, well, here's a half moon. This was last night when I did this video. And here is nighttime in my back garden. Now I live in the city, so you do get some light pollution from the city lights. But as you can see, there's a little bit of cloud cover, but not a lot. But the moon is out, and as you can see, nothing's lit up. Because the moon doesn't light the whole ground up. It doesn't light up the night sky. That's why at nighttime, Mikey, it's dark outside, even when the moon is fully lit. It doesn't light the night sky. It's amazing. Now you say I don't do experiments, or nobody does, but here's a rock. Now I'm outside, so I'm not getting a lot of reflection off walls and the ceiling and stuff like that. Now as you can see, I had shadows. Now it looks like the full moon, or 3/4. Look at that. There's some shadows on there, but it's also lit. And I'm trying to hold this out, hold my phone back, and show you the phases. Now I have a distant light source. Now look, it looks about half moon. Look at some shadows. The quarter moon, a crescent moon, right? This isn't a perfectly round stone. We get the idea. Look, new moon, or look, eclipse. I'll show you a new moon here in a second, where the sun's behind on the back side. See how you can't really see the moon because the sun's behind it? So there you go. So that's like a new moon. The sun's on the other side, depending on where it is in its orbit around us. There's a 3/4 moon. Now I had to kind of watch I wasn't getting in the way of the rock because I am holding it in my arms. So there's times in which I got between the light source and the rock. But look, half moon, the shadows on there. Come around, look at that. 3/4 moon. I'm trying to move back here so you can kind of get the idea. Now, because you can see the rock, it's reflecting light. Light is reflecting off of that and into the camera. This is how the moon works. This is why it looks lit up. From a distant light source, you can see, look, this is like a new moon. And I'll turn the other way so you can see a crescent moon. And there you are. See? Light is reflecting off this rock. Now this rock isn't even all that bright. It's more of a duller gray color, but it's reflecting off the rock. And that's why we can see it. There you go. Now let's see how it looks with a distant light source. I use one of my kids' bouncy balls here and the same rock. So as you can see, there we are. So on this side, so you can see the light side. Look, there's a dark side, the Terminator. And on the dark side, look, the moon. Why? Because the moon is actually 250,000 miles away from the Earth. And then the sun's actually very far away. Now the sun in this case is not the biggest light. I don't have any bigger lights really, and it's probably not far enough away, but you get the idea. So there you are. So we can see from the Earth there, from the dark side, you'll be able to see probably 3/4 moon here. There's the light source. Now this isn't ideal, it's just I didn't have enough arms to hold everything up and hold the camera. But, so the grass is blocking a little bit there, but you get the pretty good general idea. If you don't, I'm sorry, that's just going to have to be a you problem. I move it to the other side here, and now as you can see here, just to show, maybe the sun, moon at different orbits. And it may not be exactly the scale, but like I said, it's more proof of concept, this. So there you go here from the light side. Sun, the moon is, the rock is reflecting the light and it's reflecting it towards the dark side of the ball here. So pretend it's the Earth, right? So as you can see, you can get all that. You get the reflections and stuff off of a sphere, no problem. That's easily proven. And then I'm showing you from here. This is from the dark side, sitting against the ball. As you can see, pretty much a full. Oh, I changed lenses here, so the best lens, there you are. And there you go. So like a full moon from the dark side of that sphere. Now we'll move it over again. And see from this perspective, you can see the be a half moon. Now, because of the rotation of the Earth, like even tonight, we had a half moon, but I went out later on after midnight, and the moon had already gone below the horizon. I couldn't see it anymore. So this would be the same sort of idea. You can see the moon, the Earth there, dark side, easy seen, and from the dark side, it's a half moon, and I'll move it again here. This gives you ideas from the dark side how we can actually see the moon as a distant object. Mikey's example of him holding the phone on one side of his head and a rock behind his head was absolutely stupid and ridiculous because that's not how the moon and the Earth and the sun works. The sun's very far away. The moon's 250,000 miles away from the Earth, and so we actually have different lines of sight we can see. And as you can see here, this shows about a half. So it wasn't a perfectly round rock, but it's the closest thing I could find that was a decent size. I could have found maybe another ball, but then I was trying to show shadows as well, so the ball wouldn't work like that. So we're just going to place this around And as you can see, from the dark side of the moon, from the dark side of the Earth, that's a crescent moon there. Look at that. Hey, just like the little sliver crescent. And that's because the moon reflects the light of the sun, and that's why we can see it like that. Now this is from the sun's perspective. This also shows where sometimes in the day or in the morning we can see the moon as well as from the dark. So sometimes different parts of the Earth, some would be in the morning, some would be just going into evening, and you can still see the moon, and that's kind of how that works. And we're going to place it again here. I'm holding it up because the moon's orbit is actually off center. It kind of tilts a bit, so sometimes it's below, sometimes it's above. That's why we want to get eclipses at certain times of the year, and it's when the moon's orbit actually lines up with the Earth, because like I said, it's actually a little bit off center a bit, so the moon and cause the eclipse of the moon is actually either a little bit towards the north or towards the south, depending on what time of year. And so the sun's rays can actually get past the Earth and hit the moon, and that's why we only get the eclipses at certain times of year when they're both in alignment, and that's how lunar and solar eclipses work. So there you have it. I was able to actually demonstrate and model out different phases of the moon. A rock, which in my defense a little bit, that rock was actually kind of more of a darker kind of stone. It wasn't like a very light, bright one. But I was still getting reflection off that stone, that big rock. So I could find in my garden at the time. It's middle of the night. So, but yeah, I could still demonstrate and model out the different phases of the moon. I could model out and demonstrate how you can have different shadows depending on the different phase. And obviously if you have the light source directly on it, you can see the full face, but all around the edges, you can see where there may be some shadow. And if you look at my video, I've done a few videos of the moon at different points. I've done some full moon ones, I've done some half moon ones and stuff like that. And I'll do more when I stop getting some clouds at night and I can get out with a telescope. But I got many observations. Now what I do is obviously I use my telescope, I use a planetary camera, and then I do run it through. I run it through some stacking software, and then I clean up the images to get the sharpness to bring it out the moon. So compared to what Mikey does, what I put out is 200 times more accurate and much more clearer images. He just does this telescope with his phone, and then he just kind of does his computer and zooms in on it, and that's where you get all the chromatic aberrations and very poor observations. But easily I was able to demonstrate it. Now you can see what Mikey was just trying to take the piss by taking the rock and putting it behind his head like this and holding the camera in front of him. Well, obviously that's not what we see. For one, if you had that, what he showed there, well, Mikey, that is what we call a lunar eclipse. Good job on that, because that only happens, possible to happen twice a year. And it's usually about May, and then I think it's September, and it has to do with the orbital path of the moon, because the moon isn't perfectly going across the equator. It actually has a bit of it orbits at different points like this. So as it goes up, it kind of goes down and up and down. So it does this. So it's either the moon's slightly above the Earth towards the north, or slightly below the Earth towards the south at different points. So you get the full moon, quite easy to see. But at certain points where that crosses, whereas the cross comes up and it's doing this, and the moon, like say, my head is the Earth, and the moon comes this way, comes down from higher, comes down to here, and as it's going this way, it'll line up, and as you get the solar eclipses in which the moon passes in front of the sun, or you get lunar eclipses in which the Earth passes between the sun and the moon. This is easily explained, demonstrated, and modeled on the globe model, and yet Flat Earth is still struggling with this and has been for hundreds of years. So that's about it. I have now fully debunked and gone through Mikey's, he did like an hour live stream, and I was able to falsify and debunk everything he's done within about 20 minutes. So yeah, Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow me for more videos. Click the like button. Subscribe to my channel. Remember, people, Earth's definitely a globe. Space is real. Gravity is improving. But don't forget, stay curious. See you again. Thanks for coming.
And by the way, all those rumors on the internet are fake. I'm not flat. I'm not hollow on the inside, and there's definitely no reptilians inside of me!